Hey listeners, your host Denny Corby here. If you're new to the channel, I just want to let you know that this particular episode is from the vault with our OG host Gabe, and this is just good old-fashioned private club radio. Enjoy.
Welcome to Private Club Radio, your weekly source for industry education, news, and discussion. Broadcasting from Tampa, Florida, ladies and gentlemen, here is your host, Gabriel Aloisi.
We've got an all-star cast joining us today on Private Club Radio. We'll be speaking with Dick Kopplin of Kopplin-Kiebler and Wallace. We will also be hearing from Michael McCarthy over at Addison Reserve, alongside Peter Nanula of Concert Golf Partners. And we're going to be exploring board issues today, some of the common problems that are faced across the country. And more importantly, we're going to get into solutions, how boards should run in a more efficient manner, as well as what issues boards should be looking at closely in this next decade. Just a couple of announcements before we get started here. I want to remind you about the Club Innovation Conference that's happening on January 12th through the 14th. This is an online conference, no travel necessary. Some great speakers in the lineup, including, I will be there, of course, but including Greg Patterson of Tribal Magic, and of course, former general manager of the Beach Club, Whitney Pinnell of RCS Hospitality, Joe Kren of Farmington Country Club, Michael Crandall, CNG, a number of titans in the industry will be speaking there that you will want to hear. Again, fully online conference. You can get your tickets at clubinnovationconference.com. Next up, I want to let you know about a little special offer that's happening for the ABCs of Plutonium Private Club Leadership. This is the book that I co-authored alongside 22 experts from all aspects of the private club industry. In fact, I will go out on a limb and say that this is the most comprehensive piece of nonfiction ever written on private club leadership development. And it's a book that if you haven't read, you absolutely should. You can get a free sample on our website as well. But for a limited time during the holidays, we're offering something special for those that order multiple copies for their board or for their management team. And we've had clubs all over the country do this. They order 6, 9, or 12 books, sometimes even 24 books for the board and for the staff. If you make a bulk order this holiday season on our website, we will offer you personalization free, meaning we will put your club's logo as well as a motto. Clubs have used a quote. Anything that you would like to put, we will customize that for you on your copy so that this book can become your own for your club. So if you've got a few extra dollars in the budget, maybe you didn't get to attend some conferences this year, for instance, that you normally travel to, and you've got some extra education money, this is a great way to spend that money in an effective manner that will really pay dividends to you and your club for many, many years to come. You can make those orders at plutonium.club. So it's not a .com. Just put in plutonium.club and make an order of 6 books or more and get the free personalization this holiday season. All right, without further ado, we're going to bring on our special guests and talk to Peter, Michael, and Dick. Here we go. Welcome to another edition of Board Chats here on Private Club Radio. This segment, as always, sponsored by Concert Golf Partners, doing amazing things across the country for private clubs. And as always, we're joined by Peter Nanula, who is the CEO of Concert Golf. Peter, welcome to the show, man. How are you? It's been a while.
Hey, Gabe. Good to see you remotely.
Good. Great to be with you. You guys are up to 22 clubs now. Tell us what's going on and catch us up in the concert golf world.
Yeah, 22 private clubs and the year of COVID, right? So it's been a crazy year where we thought the world was ending, and then golf clubs became the most popular thing around. So who knew?
Right.
But like Michael can probably discuss, we got COVID issues to deal with. We've got, how do you run a club business without real banquets or weddings? So you can imagine what that's like.
Yeah.
But when golf is setting all-time records and your superintendents are going crazy about the amount of play, it's a nutty year. But we've added a couple more clubs this year, and they're smoothly joined the group, and knock wood, all good.
I was just talking to a member who had been up to Blue Hill in Massachusetts and saying rave reviews about it, saying how great of a club it was.
Oh, good to hear.
Yep. You guys have quite a portfolio. It's very diverse all over, really in key cities across the country. And Peter, just a fountain of knowledge for folks who have not heard Peter on this show before. So you're going to enjoy it. And we've got two really special guests that's going to join Peter here today. Mr. Michael McCarthy of Addison Reserve in Delray Beach, Florida, as well as the legend himself, Dick Kopplin of Kopplin-Kiebler and Wallace will join us. And we're going to have a lot of fun here. Peter, before we bring it over to Dick and Michael, why are we discussing board governance today?
Yeah, you and I started this podcast quite a while ago to get inside the boardroom of private clubs. And we've talked a lot about capital or strategy and issues like that. But I guess I have found the work that Michael and Dick have been doing for years about club governance interesting, because just about all the member-owned club boards I talk to seem to have the same common list of issues with their boards, where their boards aren't really acting like the boards I'm familiar with. They don't seem very strategic. They don't seem to have a consistent business plan. They're just a lot of people poking their noses into daily operations at their club. And that's not like boards. If you sit on company boards for a living, like I've done, that's just not what boards do. And I thought, it'd be refreshing on this little segment that we do to talk to these guys who I think have sort of pioneered a better model for club governance.
That's right. Well, let me introduce Michael McCarthy. He's the general manager of Addison Reserve. Michael, tell the folks, for those that don't know you, which I'm sure is a very small few in the private club world, tell us a little bit about your background and history and how you got to be where you are today.
Well, I came up on the culinary side as a young kid, grew up with dyslexia and all kinds of learning disabilities, and knew that a formal college education was going to be real difficult for a guy like me. So my mom, who was an incredible cook, kind of got me into cooking at 10 years old. And I worked my way through kitchens from the age of 13 through high school, into culinary school, graduated culinary school, discovered my first club, and wound up becoming executive chef at age 21 years old at a club up in northern New Jersey. Spent 7+ years there, and then was recruited to a super high-end club, northern New Jersey, Jewish type country club, which was a whole new learning experience for me. Was hired as chef, was there 6 months and was promoted to general manager within 6 months. And I was 26 years old at the time. Spent the next 5+ years there, and got a call from a dear friend, J.D. Pietro, which many of you know, to look at an opportunity down south in Palm Beach County, a developer-run club called Bell and Isle at the time. They were just taking it out of the ground. There were about 400 homes built at that time. We had a final build out of 1,600 homes, very large community and private club. Had the incredible opportunity to work with an amazing businessman, Roy Davidson and John Bills, under, a professional business structure. And coming from a member-owned club into a developer-owned club, it was a real eye-opener. I had the opportunity to meet Dick at a very young age, and it was we had these discussion points because Dick too had worked for developers, and he had worked for private equity clubs, and we clicked off immediately, understanding that there was a big difference between being a goal-driven organization under a developer compared to an agenda-driven organization, which is what we usually see in private equity clubs around the country. There are leaders that have great volunteer leaders that have great intentions. Unfortunately, they get wrapped up in agendas, whether it's their own, whether it's their small group of friends that they're representing, compared to setting a great strategic plan, a great vision, and having a goal-driven organization. So as my career progressed, we took Bell and Isle through turnover, and a developer was leaving. I had to remain part of the exit agreement 2 years with the members after they had taken the club over. And I realized real quickly how things were changing. Um, I don't know if it was for the good or the not good. I mean, I have a different opinion. I probably won't voice that now, but hence why I made a change a couple of years after that. But it became an agenda driven organization. And after being in a culture with professional people that set goals and objectives every year, we were able to hold people accountable for their performance. I realized real quick that going back to where I was earlier in my career probably wasn't going to be uh, right for me going forward. So hence why I made the change. Addison at the time was really floundering. They had gone through 4 general managers in a 5-year period. So they had turned over the club, went through the same thing. We own the club. We're going to operate the club. We're going to do this, that, the other thing. We know what happens when that all takes place. For some reason, when clubs usually turn over, the members have this perception that there's a pot of gold someplace in the building because the developer had to be making money, and they don't understand. So they dig, and interrogate, and they realize that there really isn't any money in club operations for developers. We made money on selling dirt, building houses, and selling memberships, and club operations were always, a loss leader for us. So coming down to Addison, they had gone through this really, really tough transition for about 5 years and were ready to surrender. And when I started to lay out the differences between how we operated as a developer and how they were operating, we really piqued interest. And, I threw some things out on the table, such as, the big bad developer that everybody couldn't wait to get rid of. I posed the question to them and said, today, knowing what you have experienced here, would you invite the developer back to take your business back over? And the 9 people sitting in the room all was shaking their head up and down, agreeing with me.
They should have called me.
And there you go. And that was kind of the launching point for at least me. Dick and I had sat, and I believe, Dick, you can confirm this, but back in the early 2000s, Dick had put this responsibility matrix together. I believe Ballin was the first one to implement that matrix, and it made so much sense, and it was so clear to me that this is the way these business needed to be operated. I shared that with the crew down here. I shared it with the membership at that time, and they were in total agreement that this is the direction that we needed to go in. And from that day forward, we were off and running. They were hindered by huge amounts of committee involvement, 376 plus people serving on committees out of 700 plus families, 27 people on the green committee. There wasn't any grass on the golf course. Golf course was burnt up. They had 45 people on the house committee, 27 people on the finance committee. It was just complete chaos. And we agreed up front that we would take a hiatus from operational committees immediately. And the first day that I arrived, we had a town hall meeting for about 600 people. And we announced that we were eliminating all of the operational committees. Obviously, the 300 plus people that were involved in selecting tablecloths and, how to make grandma's favorite soup and on were upset. But we sent everybody a free steak dinner, thanked them for their services, and terminated those committee members that evening, because we knew that we needed to put a brand new structure of club governance in, and it was going to take time. There was no possible way for myself to sit there and handpick 7 or 9 committee members from a group of 45 that were serving. I don't know them. Politically, it would have been a nightmare. So it was just best that we take a little hiatus. Following year, we went and changed the bylaws because we hit the ground running. We were, really, really doing great things at that point. And we changed the bylaws 87% approval, not to have any operational committees. So they're fiduciary committees, finance, audit, grievance, membership, legal, and leadership and development, which replaced nominating committee. I mean, I can go on for hours about this.
Well,
we'll come back to you with a few more questions, Mike, but thanks for giving us that overview. And I bet, I assume things are running much more smoothly these days here. So this is our opportunity to bring on Mr. Dick Kopplin, who I've heard touch on this subject many times at CMAA events and other educations, and they put out great research in the private club industry. If you've ever probably looked for a job, you've run across Dick's firm, Kopplin-Kiebler and Wallace, and he's just a fantastic individual who's very giving of the private club industry. So, Dick, welcome to Private Club Radio, sir. How are you, man?
Well, Gabe, thank you. Great to be back with you again. And hello, Peter, and hello, Michael. Thanks for allowing me to join you today. I go back, as Michael does, quite a ways in the business, a little bit further than Michael, 48 years. So that's probably about when Michael was born. I don't remember how old he is, but I've been in the business a while. 25 years ago, started our firm, and after managing a number of very fine clubs around the country, but started our firm 25 years ago and have worked with probably over 1,700 clubs now, and many of them obviously doing a program we call board governance best practices. And that's what Michael had been referring to. I think one of the slides that we use is a matrix of responsibilities. But listening to Michael talk, I would just add on, I think when we go to clubs that are really well-managed clubs like Michael's club, what we see typically is that they get the governance right. If they don't get the governance right, nothing else seems to work. And that's really the characteristic of the top performing clubs. They figured out how to do it. And sometimes they did it by accident. Sometimes they did it in a concerted way. Sometimes it's been a matter of bringing in some facilitators. But nonetheless, those are the clubs that typically will set themselves apart. And I'm sure we'll get a chance to talk about some of those specific strategies or how they've done that. And Michael has shared some of that, but I know we probably talk about this all day, but we'll certainly try to focus in on just a few of the things that we see in really well-governed, well-managed clubs.
Yeah, Dick, I know you've been pounding this drum for many, many years. Have you seen in general that the industry has shifted more towards letting the managers and the staff actually run the operational side? Are we making headway in that respect?
I think we have made headway, and the two reasons. I think boards are becoming a little more educated in terms of what their roles truly are. And secondly, I think the managers, the general managers, the COOs like Michael have really picked this up and have been discussing it and advocating for it and have positioned themselves very nicely in the industry. Now, biggest challenge, I think Michael would agree with this, is I wish there were more general managers who would step up. If there's a common complaint that we hear very often in clubs, it's that, look, we want a general manager to take the leadership role, but they seem to be a little reticent in doing it. So I think we've got a real challenge there, educational wise, to really ensure that managers feel comfortable in that role. And too many of them simply, for whatever reason, don't seem to want to step up to that role, and Michael has done.
Right. Michael, what are some of the other shortcomings that you commonly see boards?
So Dick, let me go back to what you were saying and why some of our colleagues may be insecure of really ruling and leading with that iron fist. It comes back to job security. Our challenge from this side is that, every year you have 3 or 4 new people coming onto the board. I've had hundreds of board members throughout my career that I had to work with. I've had some incredible leaders that I work with, and I've had some really crummy board members. Not a lot, thank God, and not a lot at Addison for a long, long period of time, because we're out there recruiting and looking for the right cultural fit and trying to find people that are not representing their small group. They're not agenda driven. But I see in talking with clubs around the country that in so many cases, the problem is the boardroom. And, I've worked with clubs with some of the greatest CEOs from Fortune 500 companies that would never operate their company the way they allow their club to operate.
Exactly.
And what I've learned from those individuals as I pose questions to them was it's just different at the club. And whether you're, when you're the CEO of a major corporation, you're usually not getting criticized or questioned. Now they put their hand up to volunteer to offer their expertise to the club. And all of a sudden they go into the grill room and they're being criticized. They go out to the driving range and they're being criticized. The wife's coming home with a bunch of complaints for them. And all of a sudden, they've signed up for something that they weren't prepared for. And back in their business, nobody posed those difficult criticizing questions to them, constantly complaining to them. And I think over time, they come in with good intentions and they then become afraid to make decisions because they know they'll be criticized by their friends back at their golf group, in the lunchroom, in the card room. And I think over time, that constant beating really makes their vision blurry in making the right decisions.
Peter, you've spent quite a bit of time in boardrooms as a professional board member and sitting on club boards and, of course, speaking with a lot of boards around the country. Why do you think that these problems are so prevalent, and what's the solution?
Yeah, no, this is fascinating for me to hear Michael and Dick talk about this. But yeah, this is not how company boards work. Everybody knows that. I guess you go to the club, and I'd love to hear Dick and Michael's view on this. You go to the club, and it's different because of the volunteer nature of it. It's considered to be a recreational amenity where everyone lives. So it's a more casual, maybe kind of situation. It's not the board of, General Motors. And so everyone feels like if I volunteered my time, I get to speak, I get to have a point of view, I get to poke my nose in. And I think that's just the structural problem. That's the way the bylaws are written, to have the rotating board. The minute you get somebody who's really capable, that guy's rolling off in a couple of years. And new people are coming on who have agendas, like Michael said. But I'd love to hear, Michael, what you and Dick both think about why what you were just saying, Michael, a Fortune 500 CEO person who knows darn well how to select a board and how to make that board work extremely well as a strategic group. Why is it that they walk into that first meeting and everything's different at their club?
Dick, you want to take that one on?
Well, yeah, we've often said, sometimes next to the co-check room, there should be a sign at the boardroom, the brain check room, because we've seen the strangest things occur in boardrooms, and all of a sudden people are talking about things they don't even know why they're talking about them. And I think a lot of that, Peter, really goes to the leadership, goes to the club president, who needs to control the agenda. And one of the things we talk about a lot in our programs is the fact that you have to have a club president who really understands the dynamic in place in a private club boardroom. And you alluded to this, Peter. There's a turnover. One of the structural problems with the board is that every 3 years you get 3 new board members typically. And I just got a call from a club president who said, "Well, Dick, I think we're going to let go of let our general manager go." I said, "Why is that? You've been there, 6 years." "Well, we've had a change in board. No, it's not the same board than when he came here. And a couple of members just don't think he treats them right. I said, isn't your club doing very well? Yeah, we got a full membership and on and on and on. But I said, really? I said, you got to rethink this, and I mean, so just again, there's just some real illogic that occurs. And I'm not smart enough to figure that out. Michael, do you have any ideas to how that happens? I mean, I don't know. I've been watching it for 48 years. I still can't figure it out.
So Dad, I commend you and Kurt and Tom for all of the work that you guys do in the boardroom with these governance retreats, right? The best practices. What I think we can all do better as an industry, you guys are so busy in placement. And when you do a placement, obviously you go in and you do this board orientation and you take them through, best practices and horror stories. And everybody in that room at that time is in total agreement with everything that you guys are presenting. However, in my opinion, it needs to be done constantly. Okay. I look back at my 15 years here and the success that we've had. It's because I focus so much of my attention on making sure that I'm managing the expectations of the board. I'm constantly educating them. I think back now, what I really do on a daily basis, I do two things. I develop people and I protect the members from themselves. And that is the truth. That's what I protect the members from themselves. If I ever opened up the gates and the barbarians came through, and it's a tough job keeping them outside that gate, okay, we'd be in trouble here real quickly. And it's a fight every day. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but that is my job. My job is to protect and enhance $1 billion worth of real estate investment here. I take it very seriously. I think.
Well, Michael.
Yes.
Michael, I'm interjecting only because you're hitting on a key point, and that is that oftentimes we don't see the orientation of boards taking place. And I asked the general manager, why in the world would you not do that? It's your golden opportunity every year to take those 3 new board members through a complete orientation process, including introducing them to all of the key managers, as looking at the assets of the club. I know you do a very good job with that. And I think that, to your point, that's your opportunity to educate the boards. Now, you have to continue it every month, but you have a golden opportunity every time there's a new group of board members coming on to reinforce what you do and what the board does, and the separation, and explaining the matrix to them. And here are your opportunities to function. Here are mine, and we don't cross over. And yet it's amazing to me that more and more managers don't take that opportunity. And I think you do a very good job with the orientation process, don't you, Michael?
Thank you. I mean, I spend a lot of time on it, but there are a couple other things that I think could help club boards all over the place. And, there are some things that I don't think take place as best practices, and I think they should. One thing that I would absolutely recommend is board meetings be open to the membership. Okay. I know that's taboo, but we are a POA now for the last 2 years. We have to have open board meetings, but 15 years ago, we opened the boardroom to the entire membership before it was mandatory as a POA. It was the best thing that we ever did. Why? Because we went from 8-hour board meetings and talked about what band we're bringing in, what color tablecloths, should they be floor length at lunch, not floor length. Okay. The things that we were discussing in the boardroom were just absolutely, really silly stuff. The minute we went to open board meetings, those meetings went down to an hour and a half. Why? Because the leaders that we had in that room, the ones that we went out and recruited because we saw something special in them and we knew they could contribute, didn't get bogged down on that silly stuff. They were able to fly at 40,000 feet, focus on the strategic plan, focus on all of our goals and initiatives that we were setting. focus on the financial planning, focus on the real estate, focus on our future. And that was a game changer for us. I know a lot of clubs are scared of that, but you'll be amazed that once there's some peers looking at you in the boardroom, you're not going to be talking about the crudité.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. It's like people peering into the surgery room, right?
Oh,
Why, Peter or Dick, whoever wants to take this question on, but why are boards not very often transparent with their financials and membership trends and capital needs and things like that? Why do you think that is?
I've got a theory, but maybe Dick has one too.
Well, I would say that initially, sometimes they don't fully understand the financial, and we've done a lot of work with club benchmarking, and Ray and Jim are very good at explaining to a board that they don't need to focus on the food and beverage cost. They need to focus on their assets and how they're improving them or not. And they're focused in the wrong place. And I think sometimes board members clearly don't understand the financials. So it's hard for them to, I think, rationalize giving members a good report if they don't understand it. So that would be my initial.
Yeah, that's part of it. It's definitely part of it that people don't understand what they're looking at. The other part I see, Gabe, and I don't know if Michael and Dick see this, is, we're often dealing with clubs that are trying to grapple with a membership trend that might be stagnant or even slightly declining, or the capital needs of the club, as club benchmarking can tell you, are falling behind sort of keeping up with depreciation, et cetera. And I find board members are in this weird spot in this kind of a business where you don't want to go telling all your members that we're down 32 members. We missed our budgeted, recruitment of new members this year. Attrition is higher than we expected this year, or we need to raise another several $1 million for the physical plant. Like, those are all truths that sound terrible to the average member and make him or her question whether they should stay at that club and pay their bill or join some other club that's in a better position. So they're inherently in a situation that is conflicted. Why should we tell the truth and run off 40 of our members? And so what they do, my experience is, they hide, they don't tell the whole story, and they send out happy talk emails to the members. And half of the members typically will send me notes saying, this looks like complete BS. We know this is not what's really going on at the club. Why do they send us this happy talk?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I know you guys are busy. Michael, you're running a club. Dick, you're running all over the country visiting clubs. So I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I'd love for you guys to give us, all the listeners here, one last parting shot. Maybe an action step that you would recommend boards take that would broadly work across the different diverse clubs we have listening to this show. Michael, let me start with you. What would be one action step you'd recommend that either the manager or the board takes here as we move into 2021?
I think transparency is everything. And, I talked earlier about going to open board meetings. I think there are a lot of additional steps via focus group meetings with the president and the general manager to improve your communication. I think there's always opportunities for guys like Dick to come in and speak to the entire membership. When I've had the opportunity to speak to memberships at large, there's a much better response from the membership. And the reason I point this out is in a lot of cases, members just don't trust the board and they don't trust management. They always think that we're up to something. We're cooking something in the back, and here they are, they're going to drop another assessment on us. I think when you have an opportunity to speak about the differences between how agenda-driven clubs are run versus goal-driven operations, what you'll see is the membership will be in total agreement. The board then is given the marching orders by the membership. They're endorsing it. Unlike in most cases where the board and the general manager get out there and dictate down to the membership, this is getting an experienced guy like Dick out there and educating the membership and getting the endorsement from the membership to give the board and the general manager basically their orders. And it works so much better when you can communicate and be transparent with them.
That's fantastic advice. Dick, let me throw it over to you. What's one action step you think folks in the industry should be looking at here as 2021 approaches?
I think every board could take the 12 question survey that we do, and you can do it on SurveyMonkey, and it really gives them an opportunity to see how they are functioning as a board. Very simple to do, easy to do. And it also compares them to the 300-400 other clubs around the country that we've given this to in terms of the board. So they understand, how they're functioning as a board. And one of the key questions in that survey, about in the middle of the pack, is a question, rank the level of trust at your board right now. It's a 1 to 5 survey. So, we've seen, I just worked with Thunderbird Country Club in California. Their trust level is at 4.85 on a 5-point scale. That's amazing. That's what's getting so many things done there, because they trust each other. And we, on the other hand, I've seen a club in California that was about 2.0, and they had all kinds of issues. Stephen Covey wrote the book, The Speed of Trust. And if you have trust in your boardroom, you'll get a lot of things done. If you don't have the trust, and Michael mentioned that word earlier, you don't have that trust, not only with the board, but with the staff and with the GM, then it's really difficult. So again, I just think you need to take a good look in the mirror right now. If you're a board member, and say, hey, let's take a look and see, how are we doing in terms of a board?
Well said, Dick. Peter, let me throw it over to you.
Yeah, those are two great action steps. I guess I would say even a higher level, 40,000 feet. I would say one of the problems with club boards is they're so insular. Most of these people don't know anything about club management or agronomy or the golf business. They're just, smart, successful business people in the community. And because of the ignorance, I think that drives some of the behavior that isn't helpful. And so maybe they're scared and they stay insular. So my simple suggestion to them all would be, poke your head up like a periscope. Commit yourself to making a half a dozen phone calls in the first couple months you get there. Call someone from Club Benchmarking, great resource that we're all agreeing on, right? They have all this data about all these clubs. Just call them up and do a half-hour overview, and maybe you'll subscribe to something, the data service consultant. Call Kopplin-Kiebler or Wallace, right? Leading lights in this industry, not just on getting you a new general manager or staff, right? Do a board retreat, et cetera. Call somebody like us that's in the capital part of this world, and just, do you know how it works? Do you understand how you're going to have to assess or raise dues or turn a profit or get a partner like us? And maybe call a Troon or a Kemper or somebody who does third-party management if you think you have needs in that area. But put up the periscope, make a half a dozen calls to industry leaders, and get yourself a little bit better education about this industry you've landed yourself in by virtue of volunteering for board service. That's what I would suggest.
I love it. I love that advice. Gentlemen, I want to thank you all for being so gracious with your time, so giving to the industry, and for joining us here on Private Club Radio. If you haven't already, I absolutely recommend you check out Kopplin-Kiebler and Wallace. Is it kknw.com, Dick? Is that the best website?
That's easy, kknw.com.
Beautiful. And of course, definitely check out Michael's club, Addison Reserve, which you should also follow Michael on LinkedIn. He puts out some really great content there as well. And of course, thanks to our sponsor here, Peter Nanula of Concert Golf Partners, concertgolfpartners.com. Absolutely. If you're looking to take a deeper look at the financials at your club, Peter and his team have incredible creative ways in order for you to have success here as we move into 2021. Gentlemen, I want to thank you all for joining us.
Thanks, Gabe.
Hey, happy holiday, everyone.
Same to you too.
You.
See you guys.
Awesome.
Thanks, Gabe.